celebrate because we would love to see even more progress, and we would love to see it having happened already. In the same time period, there were 135 gun-related incidents. That is a combination of crimes committed with guns as a tool in that crime, and it's also gun possession cases where that possession is illegal. Philadelphia police and other law enforcement made 70 arrests, and of the 70 arrests that were brought to us, there were 69 cases that were open and charged based upon the investigations brought to us. Cash bail fails us again, but why go into the details? We've been at this now for years, and it continues to fail us. When we look at shooting incidents that occurred over the course of the week, obviously these are not the only ones, but I just want to mention a couple of them. There is a shooting incident. This is a quadruple shooting resulting in 3 fatal shootings. It is a triple homicide. This occurred on Monday, October the 2nd, today, on the 6100 block of Shelbourne, Shelbourne Street in the 22nd Police District at about 4:48 a.m. 4 adult victims were shot. 3 of those victims were pronounced on the scene just after 5 a.m. by medics. 1 adult female was transported by medics to a local hospital. This investigation is ongoing, to put it mildly. It's extremely active, actually, at this point, and anyone who has information should please contact PPD Homicide, Philadelphia Police Department Homicide Unit, at 215-686-3334. Second incident, this is a non-fatal shooting on Sunday, October the 1st of 2023, on the 5300 block of North 5th Street in the 35th Police District at about 9:47 p.m. An approximately 13-year-old Hispanic male was shot twice in the right arm and once in the left arm. The male was transported to Einstein and placed in stable condition. That case, because it is a shooting but not a fatal shooting, is being handled by the PPD Shooting Investigation Group. Anyone with information on that shooting, please contact the Shooting Investigation Group at 215-686-8270. I do want you to know that ADA Joanne Pescatore, the chief of our Homicide Non-Fatal Shooting Unit, was able to be here today, and we are grateful for that. To the extent we can answer questions, we will certainly do our best. Obviously, the integrity of very, very active and ongoing investigation requires us not to say everything we know right away. It is now my pleasure to introduce the Reverend Myra Maxwell, who will give our weekly report on behalf of the DAO's Victim Support Services Division, which includes the CARES report, and I would ask her to come forward.
Thank you, D.A. Krasner, and good morning, everyone. Our CARES unit this week provided support to 12 families, rendering approximately 36 services. We do want you to know that if there's anyone impacted by these particular crimes, that you please reach out to our office because there is support available for you. Our numbers are 215-686-8027. That's 215-686-8027. Or you can look on our website, which is phillyda.org, phillyda.org. Again, these services are free to anyone. So please, if you are impacted anyway, please make sure that you reach out to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend Maxwell. Our second topic for today is to discuss some of the illegal criminal behavior that has occurred in the last week. This involves, for the most part, it involves breaking into commercial establishments, damaging things, stealing things, offenses in the nature of burglary, criminal trespass, among others. And we are here to talk a little bit about the efforts that are being made both by this office and also by the Philadelphia Police Department to prioritize justice for those who have been impacted by crimes that were committed against them. I can tell you on behalf of this office that we have been very actively pursuing contact with some of the affected businesses, their owners, their employees. We have already done a considerable amount of this work. both in the Southwest and also in Center City. We have prioritized areas and situations where arrests were actually made, and we will, during this week, be vigorously pursuing contact both in the Northeast and in East Division with businesses and individuals who were affected by that. As I mentioned earlier, Commissioner Stanford was not able to be here, but he was kind enough to provide a statement which I will read on his behalf. And these are, of course, his words. Commissioner Stanford states, "The criminal behavior of looting, burglary, theft, and vandalism that we experienced as a city early last week will not be tolerated. PPD has made dozens of arrests and worked closely with the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office throughout this process, and that collaboration will continue as we seek to bring additional suspects into custody. We are committed to ensuring that communities and businesses throughout the city remain safe and secure. Too many residents and business owners have worked hard to better their respective neighborhoods, and we aren't going to stand idly by while some individuals attempt to destroy those neighborhoods and communities. Those who engage in criminal activities will be held accountable, and we are dedicated to ensuring that justice is served." It is now my pleasure to call forward Sheriff Rochelle Bilal, whose office has been instrumental in trying to make sure that we do have order on the streets, we do have peaceful protests, but we don't have opportunistic crime that is being committed separate and apart from that. It's my pleasure to introduce a tremendous ally to all of law enforcement in Philadelphia and to this office, Sheriff Rochelle Bilal.
Thank you, D.A. Krasner, for inviting me to this, and good morning. Rochelle Bilal, Sheriff for the City and County of Philadelphia. Though we work collaboratively with the Philadelphia Police Department and the DA's office on that action, stealing is the action or offense of taking another person's property without permission or legal right and without intending to return it. I would say, as sheriff for the city and county, that the bad apples who decided to so-called protest with the act of looting were in fact stealing. Let's call the action of a crowd last weekend what it really was. Folks were stealing while the peaceful protesters were walking with the families. The thieves weren't walking with the family in support. Rather, they were too busy stealing. This act of stealing not only cost millions in damages to stores, but can also cost lives. Is stealing a cell phone or sneakers worth someone's life? I'm calling on clergy and community stakeholders to join with us today and start talking about the bad behavior that we were witnessing. People, don't get caught up in social media, please. Don't get caught up in social media roundups inviting you to participate in bad behavior. Appearing in handcuffs is not a good look you want for yourself on social media. In short, we will continue to work with the DA's office, Philadelphia Police Department, and any other law enforcement agencies and our other partners to ensure that one can exercise their right to peaceful protest while simultaneously protecting our businesses from theft. To the people that were stealing, that's a bad look on your social media, and you don't want to continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. It is now my pleasure to introduce ADA Clint, C-L-I-N-T, Clint, Orem, O-R-E-M, who is the acting chief of the DAO's charging unit.
Thank you, DA. Just want to give everyone an update on the charging that took place this past week with the burglaries and looting that happened in our city. The first night of the looting, after the decision, We charged 61 adults with various crimes. The majority of them were F2 burglaries, F2 conspiracy, criminal mischief that ranged from misdemeanors to F3s, felonies of the third degree. There were some individuals that we did charge with F1 burglary, the difference being that individuals were present in the stores whenever those people entered. There were 2 firearms recovered that first evening, and 1 individual who's actually a juvenile. There were 5 juveniles charged, that is not including the 61 adults. 5 juveniles charged, one of those juveniles charged with the VUFA, and then another individual who was carrying a firearm that evening but did have a license to carry that firearm. The next evening, we did charge 6 adults, again with the charges ranging F2 burglary, F2 conspiracy, and criminal mischief, both misdemeanors and felonies. We are still continuing to work with PPD. As most of you know, there was a lot of video from that first evening and evenings that went after that. So we continue to work with PPD on reviewing affidavits, reviewing evidence that they submit to us, and we expect the number from the first couple of nights to increase as we review that. But again, we work closely with them. We'll continue to review video, review affidavits, and we expect more individuals to be charged in the coming days.
Thank you, AD Orem. It's now my pleasure to introduce 3 victim witness coordinators. They will come up one after another without my getting back up to introduce them. These DAO personnel will be the points of contact for all businesses and those impacted by crimes committed during a period of unrest. They can be reached at the following number, 215-686-8027. That's 215-686-8027. Those 3 victim witness coordinators are first, Jessica Serrano, that's Serrano. Second, Shalyn Harris, that's Chyllynn Harris, and if I got that wrong, please correct it when you come up. And Jordan Scott. All 3 of them will come up one after another, and they will have a few words. Ms. Serrano.
Thank you, DA Krasner. Good morning. My name is Jessica Serrano. I'm a victim witness coordinator here at the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office in the juvenile unit. I became a victim witness coordinator because as someone who has experienced victimization myself, I feel it is important to observe the rights of victims. I'm here today because as a member of this community, I feel it is important to let my fellow community members know that there are referrals for necessary services and support for victims impacted directly and indirectly by the crimes committed during the unrest. This is why it's so important to hear from impacted parties to ensure that we proceed appropriately. I have already began reaching out to the local businesses and retailers that have been impacted and will continue to ensure their rights as victims are observed. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shalyn Harris. I am a victim witness coordinator in our homicide unit here at the District Attorney's Office. I began in this field in 2008 as a victim advocate due to my own victimization. I'm here today to speak to the community and the victims, both directly and indirectly affected by these crimes of the unrest in our city. We would like the community to know that every crime of any nature creates victims, and those victims have rights. To the victims, businesses, and retailers of this recent unrest in our city, please know that you have our support, and we recognize the impact that this has had on you all. Do not hesitate to reach out to our office for any reason, and our team will support you and in and through this trying time. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jordan Scott. I'm a victim coordinator here in our carjacking enforcement unit. I'd like to start by saying my heart goes out to the direct victims, businesses, and retailers that were affected by the crimes during the unrest, as well as those that live or visit the communities that were impacted, as this has effect on those individuals as well. I think the work our team does in the Victim Support Services Division is never easy, but is exceedingly necessary. I take a great amount of pride in our work and being able to be a part of a team that is able to assist others in their time of need. We try to assist victims by working with them, guiding them through the criminal justice process and through the next steps in their cases, as well as referring them to programs or services that may be useful for them at this time. I try to be there for victims, to have someone to talk about their problems or discuss their problems that they're having in the moment or anticipate having as a result of the incidents that occur. I think while it's important for us to make outreach to these victims, which we have done in the past, it's also important to hear from victims that we may have not known that are impacted, to reach out to us so that we are able to provide services to them as well. We can understand the position that these victims are put in. No one asked to be a victim of a crime, and I've heard from countless individuals when they are in these predicaments how difficult it is to deal with the trauma that comes with that. And if I'm able to alleviate any of that pain or suffering that they may have, I hope to do that, and that is why I do this and hope to continue doing that in the future. And to close, I would just like to say that our entire team is here for the community and available for others, for the victims of this crime, as well as any other victims in our community. We are here to help, and we hope to be able to assist you in that way as well. And then, as mentioned before, we can be reached for anyone that would like our support or services. The number mentioned before, 215-686-8027. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Once again, that number, 215-686-8027. We are looking forward to getting information and input from as many affected people as we can. It will certainly help us to try to do individual justice in each one of these cases. All right, we are ready for Q&A, and in no particular order, other than how they're written down on this piece of paper. Dan Snyder, CBS 3.
Larry, the mayor last week, he called for strong charges against these people that were looting. Do you feel that you achieved that? There had been this outside narrative that maybe, some of these people involved in retail theft were not being charged strenuously enough. Do you feel that with felonies, one person being at least hit with a conspiracy charge, that these are stronger? Did something change?
I feel like we have done justice this time, and we did justice in the past when there was a period of unrest. I don't know whether we consider that strong or not. I think that what is strong is doing what makes us all safer in the future and what looks like justice. But I appreciate the mayor's kind words. All right, Ricky Harris, 6ABC. Nothing. All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Cole, Fox 29.
Judge, do you think, DA, do you think Judge Wendy Pugh should have recused herself from the preliminary hearing last week based on the fact that she had used a McGonigal and Perry attorney in her divorce 10 years earlier?
I appreciate the question. I appreciate the reporting around that topic, but I have no further comment on that at this time. And I'll tell you why. Number one, we fully intend to take the case that you are talking about to a jury trial. Number two, we have seen that these same attorneys try to come up with every reason under the sun to try the case outside of Philadelphia. I will leave it to you to infer why it is they might want to try a case like this outside of Philadelphia. And therefore, I have no intention of helping them to do any of that. Kristen Johansson.
I'm sorry, if I could follow. Did she disclose to you, to the DA's office, that occurred 10 years prior?
Anything that has happened in relation to that judge is on the official record. All right, Kristen Johansson, KYW.
Two questions. One is, do you have any information, I guess, or response to what happened this morning with the triple homicide?
Yes, thank you for that question. I can tell you that as with any officer-involved shooting, we are dispatched. We have one of our Special Investigations Unit attorneys there right now. I do not have a report back myself on this, but I know that the Philadelphia Police Department has released some information, which they have described as preliminary so far. I don't know if our Chief of Homicide Non-Fatal Shooting Unit, who is in very regular contact in relation to shootings and homicides, I don't know whether Joanne Pescador has any additional information, but let me just check with her if I may.
There's no additional information. I know the detectives were at the scene. That scene took them to another district. So they're coordinating with the officer-involved shooting team to try and clear some things up.
Do you have any details about the actual troubleshooting that took place?
No, I know that the survivor was talking with the homicide detectives, so hopefully that person can update them and give them more information into what actually occurred in that house.
And Jerome, while you're up there, a lot of people may know of Josh Kruger, who was killed last night in South Philadelphia.
Yes.
Can you tell us any details about his death, what you may have been told, or who they may be looking for?
No, that's a very active investigation as well. As you know, I mean, homicide runs on these jobs as soon as they come in, and that's a last out job as well. So they're running on that job as well, and it's very active. I'm sure they're looking for cameras, videos, witnesses, anything like that as we speak.
All right, thank you. Cristabel Mora, Telemundo.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
My question will be in Spanish.
Yes.
Primero quisiera que nos diga un resumen de lo que han logrado con la investigación hasta ahora sobre los shootings la semana pasada y después voy a hacer una pregunta.
Okay. Estamos en contacto con la policía de Filadelfia, quienes están investigando lo que pasó con looting o con la entrada de negocios ilegal que pasó en la semana pasada. En este momento tenemos casi 73 personas arrestadas y estamos tratando de asegurar que hay justicia en cada uno de esos casos.
Mi pregunta es sobre detrás de toda la organización de estas personas, solamente está señalada mismo, pero la verdad es que no fue solo ella la que alentó a todos los grupos a salir a saquear los comercios que fueron afectados. Están también tras personas que están de manera inteligente pues, en la organización de estas bandas criminales para los shootings.
Tenemos mucho interés en las personas que han organizado, las partes organizadas de lo que pasó, y la investigación continúa. Intentamos tratar de asegurar quiénes son los más responsables y tener justicia en sus casos. All right, yes.
Do you mind doing that in English? I'm not real up on my Spanish, but I think she might ask about an organized effort.
Yes.
Do you mind?
No, I'd be happy to. So the question, in essence, was there is a person referred to as Meatball who seems to have been an organizer, but certainly there were other people who were organizing some of the activity as well. Is there an effort to go after everyone who was organizing? And the answer is yes. Philadelphia Police Department continues with a detailed investigation. People who organize anymore often leave a trail on social media, by text, by telephone, by other means. And we are very interested in bringing justice to people who view it as their task to encourage others to join them in breaking the law, and we intend to bring them to justice.
Would that evolve this into a sort of federal investigation? Would that bring federal investigators into this?
We are always happy to work with federal investigators, but I cannot speak for them whether they believe there is some basis for jurisdiction in that regard. Okay. Sherry Stone from the Tribune. Well, I don't want to speak for PPD. I can tell you they're engaging in a vigorous investigation. Obviously, the early arrests were made with less information than they might have been able to obtain by now. So some of those investigations are improving, and it's my expectation that some of these investigations will result in new arrests. I do want to be clear, though, there's actually very few of these arrested individuals are juveniles. A very large number of them are young. They're between the ages of 18 and 25. And in general, what we are seeing is most of them have no criminal record or a minimal criminal record. But that isn't all of them. There certainly are some people in this group who are much more concerning than others. And part of our task will be to make sure that we do individual justice in each one of these cases. Is there anything else? No, okay. Let's see. Jack Tomazuk. Did I mispronounce your name? Tomzuk. Okay, thank you.
I wanted to ask, how would you compare the unrest that we saw last week with what happened in 2020? Is your office taking it and handling it any differently or taking the same approach?
Well, obviously, this is a much smaller number of people arrested. The number of incidents is also much smaller. The period of time, so far at least, seems to be shorter. So I think in that sense, that's a positive development. We are not so far seeing any significant overlap between people whose activity was addressed during the prior unrest and the people being arrested now, so far. Now, I will tell you that part of my day will be spent going over essentially every single one of these files. In general, the way these cases were handled last time, we consider to be a success. We went vigorously after people who we thought were essentially predatory criminals and were opportunistically taking advantage of the situation. But we understood the complexity of taking people who have essentially no prior record and are caught up in a moment and are nonetheless committing crimes. All of them should be held accountable, but there is more than one way to hold them accountable. And there's more than one way to try to assist victims of this kind of activity. We intend to pursue a similar approach to what we had before. That is exactly what we have been doing so far. But it's more than just prosecuting people. It's also trying to make sure that the victims and the businesses affected by this have resources, that they're able to get back up and running, that if there are gaps, things that insurance doesn't cover, we can do what we can to try to cover that. Last time, that took the form of some wonderful nonprofits stepping up with funding to try to make some of these business owners whole. And we fully intend to pursue that just as vigorously as we did before. All right, let me see. Leah Uko, NBC? I did? Good.
How many questions can I ask?
Less than 100.
I'll try to
More than 0, but less than 100.
You kind of touched on it, but I kind of want to answer the way I ask it. So we've used language like bad behavior, bad things, don't do things on social media, clout, and things like that. But when people hear you on camera and other officials calling it bad behavior, that's not even a legal term. So detractors really think that there is leniency with shoplifting, and they think that's why they can continue to do this. Also, social media plays a role, not just from showing off, but people are seeing this in other cities where they are looting, and they're not being held accountable. And there's talk about that online, that's going to happen here in Philadelphia, that's why more people are planning to do this over and over again. So people already think it's lenience. They're hearing about these charges, but these are just charges, and they're misdemeanors. They're not going to do any serious time for it. What's your response to people who hear all of that in a nutshell and go, this ain't nothing. It's not serious. We're going to do it again.
I think felony charges are pretty serious. Anybody who tells you it's just misdemeanor charges is not correct. That's just not what's happening here. I cannot actually, I'll be checking today as we go through all these cases. I'm not aware of a situation where we've actually turned down the charging of a defendant. And frankly, I don't know what retail theft has to do with this. This isn't retail theft. This is people smashing windows and going into properties that are, for the most part, closed. We're talking here about burglary. We're talking about criminal trespass. We're talking about people who see an opportunity. The window is already smashed. They go in and they take T-shirts, they take shoes, they take Lululemon tights or whatever it is. That's actually what we're talking about here. So, we're going to keep doing what we always do, which is pursuing individual justice and trying to make the public safer. And, you know, I think our record makes it pretty clear that the prior handling of unrest was successful.
ADA Forum listed like F2, F, and then also there were some misdemeanors, I believe he did list though.
Yes.
So there are some less serious charges.
There are some that are misdemeanors. There are many felony cases where there are also misdemeanors, which is kind of typical because a lot of misdemeanors are just a subpart of a felony charge.
I'll make it quick. Two more questions. We're dealing with retail theft, not just looting in general. Is there like a specific monetary value that triggers prosecution?
No, there is not. We prosecute retail theft, whether it is for $1 or it is more. All right.
Can I just ask a follow-up? When did that change? Because I remember there was an original that it was 500, less than 500.
It never changed, Kristen. We have
It
always.
did. You guys had a press conference. It was like one of your first press conferences. You came out with that it was going to be $500 or less than $500.
No, that's not what we said, and I say that respectfully to you. We prosecute summary offenses. They are criminal offenses. They can put you in jail for 90 days. We prosecute misdemeanor offenses, and we prosecute felony offenses that are in the nature of retail theft. The difference between what we are doing now and what happened before is we are more likely to prosecute at the summary and misdemeanor level, but we prosecute all retail thefts that we receive. And that has actually never changed. All right, let me see, we are now on to Ellie Rushing, inquiry.
So 72 people total arrested between the two nights. Are any of those people charged? Was anyone charged also charged in 2020? Is there any overlap?
I can tell you that I have not had a chance to sit down and go over all of them. That is part of today's activity, is to go over every one. The last report I had, and understand, this is preliminary, it may change, but the last report I had is we saw no overlap between the people who were arrested in prior unrest and this group of people. If we do see overlap, that would be a significant factor for me. But I do think if it turns out that none of the people involved in the unrest before are this group of people, that's an important thing to note. It would appear that the way those cases were resolved, both with vigorous prosecution as to some and with an approach that was involved accountability but did not involve a conviction, it would appear, if none of them are here, that we did the right thing before. Do you have anything else, Ms. Rushing? Okay. Mr. Cipriano.
Mr. President, how do you explain assigning a first-degree murder case against a uniformed cop in the line of duty, the highest profile case that your office is prosecuting at the time, to a rookie ADA who's only been a prosecutor for 7 months, following resume? Assistant public defender for 4 years, assistant solicitor in the Registrar of Wills office for 1.5 years. Don't you owe an apology to the family of Mr. Irizarry and the citizens of Philadelphia for your office's bumbling yet another high-profile case against the cop? This is definitely part of a pattern. Recall your office's prosecutions of bungle of former officers Powell, Nicoletti, Bologna, Rock, and now Dial. How can the public, sir, have any confidence in your prosecution of police officers when you do it so bad?
Is that a question?
Yes.
Okay, because it seemed like a whole bunch of paragraphs. So the answer, of course, is this. Our rate of success at prosecuting that very small number of police officers who engage in criminal activity while in uniform is extremely high. If you look at Officer Ruck, he was convicted after he had put a bullet through the forehead of an unarmed man. He was convicted of homicide. He was sentenced for homicide. If you look at Detective Nordo, someone whose case was ignored by prior administrations as early as 2005, he was convicted of serial sexual assault. He got a sentence of 24.5 to 49 years. The other cases you have named, Pownall, Nicoletti, for example, they are not over. Those are not losses, sir. They are not over. And frankly, your definition of loss may or may not be mine. I think that we lose when we don't do justice. I think we lose when we don't do even-handed justice. I don't think we lose even if we present a righteous case to a jury and they find that there is a reasonable doubt. As for your, frankly, nearly defamatory characterization of the attorney involved, you skipped right over the fact that she was partnered with an attorney who had over 50 jury trials before he ever came to the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office, does he not count? Because he actually counts to me. And his involvement in this case with a very capable young attorney counts to me. Now, obviously, we could be honest about what happened in that courtroom. We could be honest about what the other factors in play were. We could do that, or we could do what you're doing, which is to try to weaponize and attack a relatively young and very capable attorney. And I frankly disagree with you, sir.
Well, be honest about it. What is your reaction to all those charges being dropped against him?
We are not going to be trying this case in the media. I think almost every person in Philadelphia and every fair-minded person in Philadelphia knows what they think about that.
What do you think about it?
All right.
Question before you walk away, unrelated to all of
I'm
this.
sorry, I have a
The
follow-up.
Durban-
What do you think about the fact that every charge against Dial was dropped and it caused looting and unrest and anger in the city?
I think there is nothing unusual about charges sometimes being dropped at a preliminary hearing and being brought back up and pursued vigorously. Mr. Cipriano a minute ago mentioned the Nicoletti case. Unless I am mistaken, all the charges were thrown out in the Nicoletti case, and nevertheless, that is a case that has already gone toward trial once, okay? So when we are in the position of trying to bring even-handed justice in a system that has not historically done that, there will be noteworthy moments, and that is all I have. Thank you very much.
The same prosecutorial team